Reenie's high school basketball career. Another in a series of stories about Irene Harris, an otherwise perfectly normal woman who happens to be 7'9" and weigh 3. Here we go. Nobody really believes that Carl Sagan did the whole Cosmos miniseries without once uttering the phrase billions and billions. Nobody believes that when Jimmy Carter gave his malaise speech, the word malaise wasn't actually in it. Nobody believes that Captain Kirk never once said, "Beam me up, Scotty," in the original Star Trek series. Seriously, not once. Every sci-fi geek I've ever met swears it was always Mr. Scott when he was on the job, because Starfleet had standards of professionalism, sort of. So I don't expect you to believe that over the whole course of my basketball career, I never once said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, say your prayers, here I come." In fact, I never said fee, fi, fo, fum anything. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. People who look at me naturally expect that I've played a lot of basketball. And as it happens, they're right. I've been playing for as long as I can remember. I started out playing one-on-one against my dad, back when he was taller than me. But it wasn't until I started playing for Red Cedar County High, go Lynxes, that the game started to change my outlook on life and other people. See, all my life I've had to be a gentle giant, up to a point anyway. I've had to act friendly, even when I wasn't feeling all that friendly. I've had to be more patient than other kids my age, and more forgiving, and above all, I've had to keep my temper in check. Seriously, if I made even the smallest gesture of anger, curling a fist, giving somebody a dirty look, everybody acted like I just pulled out a gun or something. Those of you who feel like you don't get enough respect, like you wish people were a little more afraid of you, let me tell you, it can get awfully lonely. And the one thing I never wanted was for anyone to think of me as a bully. But on the basketball court, bullying is half the game. The whole point is to intimidate the other team's players. You're supposed to use your stance and body language to say, "You shall not pass," or "Do not stand in my way." Within reason, of course. And in Mrs. LeBlanc, I finally had a coach who wasn't afraid to ask me to put my size to good use. Not just to shoot hoops, but to get in the other team's faces, to stride right through their ranks and dare them to try and stop me. Of course, even she was only willing to go so far. I got a lot of mixed messages from her. Be aggressive! Be fierce! Go on the attack! Careful, don't crash into anybody! Be confident! Dominate the court! Not with your elbows! You're gonna give some poor girl a head injury! Remember, you're here to have fun! And truth is, I did have fun. The teams we played against, not all of them had heard of me. You can imagine the looks on their faces when the Lynxes took the court and they got their first look at my 7.5-foot-plus self, holding the basketball up by the top for a little bit before I started dribbling it, echoing all over the gym. I had to learn a whole new body language for this, standing up straight, throwing my shoulders out, taking great big strides onto the floor. Part of me still felt a little bad about what it was doing to them just to see what they were up against, but mostly it was a relief. They were looking at me like I was some kind of terrifying monster, and I just didn't care. It was okay. If I needed approval, I had teammates for that. Not that everything was easy for me. I mentioned earlier that bullying is half the game, but the other half is not letting the other team bully you. And every high school basketball team has at least one hero on it. There's always that one girl who wants to defeat the monster, to get past me or to get the ball away from me. And stopping them was harder than you might think. When I dribble the ball, I hold my hand at what for me is about waist height, but for everybody else it's shoulder height. It makes it easier for them to reach. And the worst part? If they succeeded, everybody watching cheered. Even people who were supposed to be rooting for my team cheered. Because the underdog had just won. So I had to learn to keep my guard up, to hold my arms so nobody could slip underneath. More important, I had to watch the faces of the other team. I had to look for that one girl who didn't look scared, who looked like she was working up the nerve to try something, or who walked right up to me and said, "I guess you think you're pretty tough, huh?" What can I say? Sometimes they made it easy. Once a girl on the other team came up to me just before the start of the game and squeaked, "I'm not afraid of you!" I looked at the rest of the team, who were keeping well back, and then I looked at her and said, "I'm glad somebody isn't." Obviously, I couldn't be the underdog, so the least I could do was try to be a challenging monster. The game changed for me in my senior year, when I reached my full adult height of 7'9". In basketball, men's or women's, it doesn't matter, the metal rim of the hoop is always an even 10 feet above the floor of the court, and now I found I could reach that high, without even standing on tiptoe, which my podiatrist had told me not to do if I could possibly avoid it. One halftime, after I'd missed a three-point shot and we were behind by 2, Mrs. LeBlanc said, "Reenie, why didn't you just walk up and put the ball in the basket? Then at least we'd be tied." For a while I had trouble answering. Finally I said, "That wouldn't have been any fun." The coach sighed and said, "Reenie, you know how I always say we're here to have fun?" "Yeah?" "I don't really mean it." So, if you're wondering why I never moved on to the WNBA after college, well, now you know.